I call the honourable member Moana Maki.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and I want to speak to part 2 of this bill, which amends the Climate Change Response Act. And I have a number of questions for the Minister in the Chair, which I hope he will respond to, because this is an incredibly damaging piece of legislation for the post-1989 forestry sector. My first question would be, Minister, why do you hate forestry so much? Why does this government hate forestry? Because time and time again we've seen government policies undermining the very sector that is doing all the heavy lifting in terms of climate change response. So I would like to know from the Minister and the Chair why this only applies to post-1989 foresters, because this isn't actually about foresters not being able to re-register once they've deregistered and double dip, because we could have stopped that if that was the case. We could have just said that within any single mandatory emissions reporting period, you cannot re-register. You can only register once, and that would have fixed it. We could also have limited these international units across the board, so treated everyone the same, to try and narrow that differential in price between the NZU and the Kyoto units. That would have fixed it. If we had a proper price on carbon and that differential wasn't there, then we wouldn't have this issue at all. So I want to know why the Minister is only applying this to post-9, and the Minister should really be listening, because we're talking serious money, jobs, investment for a very important sector. National Party likes to say they're all about business. Well, here we go, passing a piece of legislation that is unfair, retrospective, inequitable, and the Minister isn't even doing me the courtesy of listening or acknowledging any of these concerns. Maybe we should just put the officials in the chair, because I don't actually think Minister Foss understands the emissions trading scheme or this bill at all. But I wouldn't want to do that, because I wouldn't want to have to put them in the horrible position of having to defend what's being done here. All I can say is help is on the way. Come September 20th, you will have a Labor government that will take climate change seriously and that will support, not undermine and attack the forestry sector. Oh, Jamie Lee Ross, here we go, climate change denier number 1. Oh no, sorry, that's Jerry Brownlee. Right. Jamie Lee Ross is climate change denier number 2. Simon O'Connor, climate change denier number 3. We really should, he called it pseudoscience in his contribution. Pseudoscience. The science of climate change is pseudoscience. Well, I can say to New Zealanders and to our long-suffering officials who do wonderful work on behalf of this anti-environment government, that come September 20th you will have a government that takes climate change and environmental matters seriously. So hang on in there, hang on in there. So I want to know from the Minister and the Chair why this doesn't apply to the heavy industrial emitters who are engaging in arbitrage. Minister? Hello? No? No answer? Okay. Because that's right. The lights are on, but no one's home. Why does this not apply to your mates in the heavy industry sector like Rio Tinto? Why are they allowed to engage in arbitrage, but the post-1989 foresters are not? Minister? Yep, nope, no one's there. No, the wheel is spinning, but the hamster's long gone. Why does it not apply to your mates in the heavy polluting industry sector? Yeah, there is no answer to that. The other question I have for the Minister is, if this is such a dreadful, awful thing, then why was the Ministry for Primary Industries, as early as the beginning of this year, promoting it in their Sustainable Forestry Bulletin? Why were they providing hints on how to remove things to consider when removing and re-registering post-1989 forests in the ETS? I think it's fair to say that from this you could probably assume that they thought the government was okay with it. Probably. And so this has probably come as quite a nasty surprise to them, which is why this bill should have gone to a select committee. My next question for the Minister is, if this is about reducing the fiscal risk to the Crown, and we all accept that's a good thing to do, why, when the fiscal risk to the Crown of arbitrage being carried out by the post-1989 forestry sector is estimated to be between $11 million to $66 million, why are we not applying the same restriction to the industrial sector engaging in arbitrage, when, if we use the same methodology, the fiscal risk to the Crown from that sector is $107 million? So why is $11 million of fiscal risk not okay, but $107 million of fiscal risk, that's just fine? Minister? I mean, this is the most appalling thing. This is a serious piece of legislation. It was presented to us as being something minor and technical. On further investigation, it absolutely was not. And the Minister and the Chair is refusing to even acknowledge these concerns, and I would welcome him to stop sitting there like a dried arrangement, get up on his pins and answer some of the questions that hasn't been answered, because this bill wasn't consulted on. No one in the forestry sector knew this was coming. They haven't consulted with anyone. There was no select committee process. So these very simple... Mr Chair?
The Honourable Member Moana Maki.
Thank you, Mr Chair. So these are very, very simple questions, and I hope that the Minister is going to respond to them. The next question that I would put to the Minister, if this is about reputational risk to the ETS, then shouldn't he be more concerned with the fact that on his government's plan for climate change, for addressing climate change, the difference between that and doing nothing at all is 0.4% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. So the government's great climate change strategy, on the one hand, absolutely nothing at all on the other hand, the difference between those two plans is 0.4%. So basically, we're doing nothing. So if the Minister is concerned about reputational risk, then I suspect he need only look in the mirror to see who is responsible for reputational risk to the ETS and to New Zealand for our complete lack of action in this area. Now, I have an SOP in my name, and we will be voting against this part unless my SOP is voted up. An SOP in my name which would restrict international units across the board to everyone. And that's actually what the forestry sector, the post-1989 forestry industry, have been calling for years. So this is not about them saying, we want these cheap units and we think they should be able to stay in our scheme. This is actually that for years they've been saying, please restrict them. We want to see them restricted. We want the NZU to be the prime unit used in New Zealand, but apply that to everyone. So for the government to turn around and then say, well, we are going to restrict them, but only to you. So you are going to be the only sector in the emissions trading scheme that can't get access to these units, is highly inequitable. It is also retrospective, and this is one, I think, of the worst things about this particular change to the Climate Change Act. There are people out there right now who are holding Kyoto units that when this bill passes, they will not be able to use. They purchased those units in good faith. They purchased those units because legally they were entitled to surrender them to meet their obligations. They purchased those units in accordance with the law, in accordance with government policy, where the government had been promoting this activity, and they are now left hanging. If they haven't started the deregistration process with MPI by today, then they are stuck with those ERUs. And if they haven't got NZUs, if they've sold their NZUs because they didn't think that they were going to need them, then that makes it even worse. So I have another question for the Minister that he will obviously choose to ignore because he doesn't understand it or appreciate how damaging this actually is, which is, why did he not allow the ERUs which have already landed in the country from today to actually still be allowed to be used? Why is he retrospectively hurting people who have purchased these units in good faith in accordance with the law, but who haven't started the deregistration process? Does he care? Do you care, Minister, that people are actually seriously out of pocket because of something that you refuse to even stand up and take a call on while you sit there and pretend that you're not listening to me and pretend to be reading the papers in front of you? Oh, God, I mean, it's just embarrassing. I mean, seriously, $250,000 for this. That's what we pay this guy for this. For no answers, complete lack of understanding, no sympathy at all, no remorse for the people who are out of pocket, for the business people who are out of pocket, for the foresters who are going to be hurt by this change. But it comes back, so the SOP in my name will equitably apply that restriction across the board to everyone. That's the way we should be dealing with it. But it comes back, the primary question that I want to ask this Minister, why is he giving his mates a free pass and whacking forestry? Minister, you should be thanking forestry. They're the only reason we came through the first commitment period of Kyoto in the black. The only reason, because this government has no plan to deal with climate change at all. Forestry saved us. You should be thanking the Minister, not taking yet another whack at them. So I ask again, why are your mates getting a free pass and forestry is being disadvantaged? Minister? It's cronyism, plain and simple. It's what we've seen right through the budget. It's what we've seen right through the 5 years of this national government. Cronyism. And it's unfair, it's inequitable, it's damaging, and it's embarrassing. And for the Minister to say that this is about our reputation, give me a break. This damages our reputation. This is a massive breach of faith with people who made investment business decisions based on what they understood the law to be, based on what the ministry was actually promoting.
I call the honourable member Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful that you allowed me to take the next call because it follows immediately on from what Moana Maki was saying, which is the iniquity of discriminating against a particular